What would you do if you could explore anywhere in Breath of the Wild without limit? Well, some of you already told me after watching the previous up-close video, so in this second episode, we'll be a fly on the wall during a Satori ceremony, admire more wildlife like a Minish photographer, cross the Hyrulean southern border into Holodrum or Lebriana, or just plain out of bounds, and so much more. So come along, fellow Zelda enthusiasts, or skip around using the chapter timestamps if you must, as I examine the beauty in detail of random things around Hyrule up close. Let's go. I want to kick things off with a suggestion from Kuria47 in the comments of the last video. When a green light glows from atop Satori Mountain, there's a metaphysical party going on you're typically not invited to, but tonight's the night. Well, actually, it's daytime. The atmosphere just changes to look like night when you get in close enough. When I arrived, I found the Lord circling the pool at the base of the cherry blossom tree, surrounded by 21 bluepies. One drank from this sacred pool and took a nap in it, which I thought was inappropriate. I watched them gather in groups, scratch and sniff. Kinda gross, but all kinda cute little bunny rabbit mannerisms. But as far as it being an organized gathering, total nothing burger. More of a meet and greet social mixer event. I was hoping there would be more focus seen among the bluepies, forming a tight circle to gather around to hear what Satori has to say, like a spiritual seminar, but everyone's up here just chilling. Bluepie behavior atop the mountain is no different than any other place around the overworld. One thing that really stood out to me about the Lord of the Mountain was the wispy green aura and speckles of light emanating from him. And I always knew he had two faces and thus four eyes, but never realized how they're paired up. It's hard to see, but if you slow the footage down, the pairs are sorted not with both on the same face, but the outer eyes blink together and the inner eyes blink together, albeit at a slight offbeat, and he always does a double blink. And for the record, bluepies also do a slightly off-sync double blink. And when the party's over, the bluepies scatter, Satori vanishes, and the sky fades back to normal. So that's enough of these guys. Let's check out another metaphysical creature, fairies. Standard fairies are simple pink orbs with wings, but when you really pay attention, you see those wings broken into sections of white with two shades of green. When you get near enough, you can even hear the twinkling of their little fairy bodies as they flutter. They're typically found around the fountains of the four great fairies. I recently met up with a couple of them, and you know how you can usually see their hand reach out for money when you first interact to activate them? Well, going below, we can see the fairy pop in when you initiate conversation. She'll hold her left hand to her cheek and raise her right arm unnaturally, stretching up inside the plant from which she's about to bloom. And once paid, return down held in front of her. The four sisters have an unfinished bottom half. It looks like a mermaid body, but without the fin at the end. The horse god Melania is similar, but since he doesn't have actual arms, the purple glow and speckles of light just do their thing. All Melania really is a pair of hands and a spine. Everything else is an accessory. Even the face is just a mask. And so since he doesn't have a body, he doesn't have that mermaid looking tail. And the spine just goes down through whatever this thing is he's wearing. And one thing I never noticed about any of the 5 fairy fountains are the gold statues, one on either side, or how the sisters have little diamonds in the locks of their hair. Anyway, as I found myself at the bottom left corner of the map, I figured I might as well explore beyond the edge of the Gerudo Desert. On my way heading out, I ran into a sand seal snoozing in the sun, and in breaking the border barrier heading southwest into the corner of the map, the sand eventually gives way to exposed rock, and when you start heading out far enough, the ground starts acting really funny. Grass just starts appearing out of nowhere, and when you head out even farther, there's more ocean. In fact, put a pin right here for just a moment, still staying out of bounds, but backtracking for a moment, off to the side, there's this bay on the edge of Hyrule I always thought was beautiful from afar, but have never gotten a chance to visit. The water here is strange, at least in one spot where the color is completely off. We have one purplish puddle reminiscent of Malice, but that's not what this is. We'll examine Malice up close a little bit later. This is more of an oil spill, and I believe I've heard of some kind of toxic water under the map that went unused in the accessible overworld, but still exists under the map in places, or maybe serves a purpose, but I've never seen it before. Maybe that's what this is. If you know what I'm talking about because somebody else described this stuff better in another video somewhere, correct my ignorance in the comments, but I digress. Back to the pin, and continuing not much farther ahead, there's a little island out here. Pretty cool, a grassy knoll in the middle of the oceanic nowhere. But I could see there was something else out there when you really zoom in. I don't even know how to describe it other than the sky meeting the horizon maybe, but there's this light green band that stretches as far as you can see. So I just held forward and made a beeline straight towards it, and let me tell you, it took a while. Eventually, I dipped below the surface of the water because it started looking funny to me, where I discovered a grid of some kind. A scaffolding I've not seen anywhere else out of bounds, and I've spent a lot of time out of bounds, better believe. I felt like I was looking at the framework of the game itself and could do nothing but stare in complete awe for a little bit. And it doesn't end there. As I looked up to resurface, the water started stacking in a strange line formation directly towards the screen. So I lined up with it and continued using that as my guide to not run off course. And then something happened that accidentally blew my mind. As faintly in the distance, another mountainous formation began to appear, and the excitement grew exponentially as I got closer to this range. Eventually, a shadowy silhouette of more land out here began to take shape, and at this point, I thought I had discovered a hidden holodrum or Libriana. I felt like the Americo Vespucci of Zelda. But as I got closer, I realized the truth of my discovery was that I was back in Hyrule. At some point out there on the water, either the game automatically flipped me around, similar to how when you run off the screen in Pac-Man to go left or right, it'll have him reappear on the other side or something like that. Or more likely, I somehow got disoriented and unwittingly made my own way back to shore. So to make absolutely positive, I lined up with the Leviathan's tail and headed out again. For a solid 15 minutes, this time only heading straight, no distractions, no looking around, although I did dip below the surface here and there, where on the floor of the open ocean I definitely discovered another labyrinth. Yes, a fourth underwater out of bounds Lomi labyrinth. But if you look closely, it has the exact layout of the North Lomi labyrinth. Still, how cool would it be to explore the deep sea like this and find hidden underwater ruins in a Zelda game? Maybe someday in a future title, but for now I still wanted to reach that light green ring, and I was gonna keep going until I got there or the game crashed, till the wheels come off, and eventually I found the edge of existence, a hard cut line where the water just stops. And I could move past here towards a barrier between the sky and the void. I traveled towards that for a while longer before finally taking a look around to find myself surrounded by nothingness. Quite an impressive experience, actually. But for now, it was time to head back to reality, or at least back to dry land. Somewhere out in the middle of Hyrule Field, I found myself entranced by a Korok Pinwheel puzzle. The magenta and burnt orange leaves spinning in a clockwise formation, and the patterns of veins on those leaves. Or looking at the pinwheel from the backside, where the sticks that act as the mast and the shaft meet has the shaft simply going through the mast, and that whole piece rotates with the leaves. The stump was chopped or broken down in a barbaric manner, with jagged chop marks and a row of splinters running across the entire stump through the center. Yeah, nothing mind-blowing, but interesting enough to make the cut for my little dissertation here. Nearby, a Moblin and 2 deer found a way to coexist. You'd think the Moblin would take that club and beat these guys over the head to bring home for dinner time to the rest of his monster friends at the nearest fort. I mean, this guy over here looks pretty hungry. But these spotted mountain doe, while extremely timid by nature, are abundantly comfortable in the presence of this particular Moblin, lying down in the tall grass as he forages around or just fends off boredom while standing guard on the lookout for Link. On the other side of this hill, I found a small group of common sparrows, which worked out real well because Toast But Cereal 05 requested to see some birds. These little guys are so scared of people, you never get to see how cute they are, hopping around, living their best bird lives, searching for small insects and whatnot, with their little green bodies, yellow tipped tails and chests, white bellies and big old pupils, pecking around, puffing up full of air to expand their body as much as possible, and then stretching out real long and tall. Just breathing and tweeting and blending in with their surroundings. But if you think they're cute, wait till you see rainbow pigeons. They're the same thing but much more colorful, with dark red heads, pink bands wrapping around their necks and pink-tipped tails, white chests, green bellies, and midnight purple bodies. Although the common sparrow is found commonly all around Hyrule, this variant is native to the Faron region. And it must just be the way Link goes stomping around towards everything that scares him off, because this traveling merchant peacefully passed him on the bridge and a blue heron that was nearby, on his way to the Lakeside Stable. And this is where I have trouble structuring these up-close videos, because I could talk about the heron or the stable right now, and for that matter, I could make a whole up-close video on just the birds of Hyrule. Not just common green sparrows and rainbow sparrows, there's red, blue, sand sparrows, golden sparrows, a variety of pigeons, crows, ducks, herons, hawks, seagulls, ostriches, and of course cuckoos. And that's not even including all the different Rito. Don't even get me started on the vanishing birds found in Flying V formation. I'm still trying to get good footage of them. For now, let's head into the stable. As you may remember while looking at Malenia, the horse face on top of every stable is an identical mask, but of course made of different materials. And because Malenia doesn't have a face, he has no teeth, nor does he have a goatee. Not to mention the horseshoe double nostril piercings that Malenia does not have. Inside, the stable hand or innkeeper doesn't have anything stored behind the counter, but he does have some luggage and sacks of belongings in storage on the shelves up above. And I don't know if anyone here has ever really taken a moment to appreciate the sign-in book with the little jar of ink and a feather used as a dip pen resting on a cloth placemat in the soft glow of a lantern's light. But now you have. And it looks like somebody forgot their stuff off on the side up against the wall. Or is at least leaving their luggage unattended, which is frowned upon in the travel industry. Some people will visit stables just to rest for a quick moment, like this NPC here, who walked in, sat down, and got right back up and left again. Nice winter boots, by the way, lady. I'm no Madame Couture, but I thought they looked stylish and familiar enough to look up. I believe she's wearing the Sorrel Joan of Arc boot available on Zelda's for 180 rupees, but you can decide for yourself. Either way, they were made for walk-in, and that's just what she's gonna do. And one of these days, I might just see where the hell some of these NPCs are going. But I want to show you a different traveler I came across in what I call the adventure of a hot-footed frog. I found this guy hopping around in search of water, and as I watched his epic little journey unfold through rubble and ruin, over rocks, out into the plains of Hyrule Ridge, through upland Lindor, along the edge of the Tanagar Canyon, which started to make me nervous, by the way, but before I had any time for concern, without hesitation, he leapt down over the cliffside, and at first I thought, like, what did I just witness? But I'll have you know, hot-footed frogs are expert hoppers. What I considered an enormous leap of faith is just another day out in the wilderness for this guy apparently. But that said, with such steep walls, it's much easier to scale downward than to make your way back up. Further into his journey, for a moment he thought he had finally made it to water, but found himself in a muddy, mucky sinkhole bog instead. But again, I'll have you know, hot-footed frogs are expert swimmers. He swam across the mud bog effortlessly, as if it were water, which, by the way, he did find nearby and immediately jumped in to clean off, cool down, hydrate, and probably to make some tadpoles too, if you know what I'm saying. But now it's time for an adventure of our own, so let's look at a couple of dangerous things, shall we? This decayed guardian, for example, is not decayed enough. And you know, it's one thing to stare closely into the pulsing laser eyeball, if nothing else it's the tiniest bit hypnotic, but what I really found interesting were the gears that allow its head to turn. This system is made of a top and bottom plate which sandwiches a set of several rotating gears of various sizes, reminiscent of a clock or the inside of a manual watch. The top and bottom plates also rotate, making it a decently complex invention by the ancient Sheikah. And you can see it better when the Guardian is aggroed but not aware of any imminent danger, as the gears and the plates glow that Hyrulean royal family shade of blue. And I said I wanted to talk a little bit about Malice towards the beginning of the video, now let's do that. Have you ever really looked at how gelatinous it is, how it swirls and oozes? A bunch of goopy, sloppy, stringy, nasty, yucky shit is what it is. Being the physical manifestation of Ganon's intense hatred, what else did you expect? Well, what about Malice eyeballs? Behold, with pupils reminiscent of the Eye of Sauron, and only the big main eye will follow you around. The smaller eyes are stationary, and each pair of the smaller eyes blink simultaneously, unlike our old friend the Lord of the Mountain. And obviously to deal with stuff like this, you're gonna need some equipment, so down a hallway in Hyrule Castle at the base of some stairs guarded by another Malice eyeball are the belongings of a lost royal knight. His shield is new to us, but it's not new. There are scuffs around the edges, gashes and gouges across the face, through the crest of the royal family, of which the paint is chipped, and the edges of the shield itself are dented, all evidence this shield has seen battle before us, and the knight's claymore in the dirt next to it shows wear and tear as well. The grip tape around the handle is coming loose, there's a space exposing the metal of the hilt, so time for a rewrap. There are gouges on the guard, and on the blade itself, the engraving is worn, and despite it all, it still gives off the glisten of a well-kept, high-quality piece of weaponry. And whichever knight this sword and shield once belonged to also kept a chest to store a bundle of 3 ancient arrows. But we're not going out to battle right now. I think we've earned ourselves a vacation trip to Lurelin village. Man, I love this place. NPCs come from miles around. The island vibes, the sense of serenity. Lurelin is theorized to be the only populated area on the map undisturbed by the influence of Calamity Ganon. And Lurlinians embrace the island culture. You'll find carved whales atop their stair posts, beautiful potted plants on their front porches. Inside, they have simple, minimalist homes. Here we see the Lurelin symbol embroidered on a cloth in between a lantern and a Tibetan singing bowl on a table by the window overlooking the water. I mean, what's not to love? And look at this. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? This Hylian retriever? Good boy. Super cute face, friendly little doggo. Wish I could give you pets, but alas. So let's check out this wooden boat shaped like a whale instead, with happy little eyelids carved into the side and barnacles growing along the bottom. You can even see the discoloration of the wood indicating how much this rowboat sits in the water. And while we're here, somebody asked me to take a look on this boat next to the seafood market out by the docks, but I could not find the original comment. Overloaded is an understatement here. A mighty porgy and an armored porgy hanging by the tail. And these guys look more realistic or less cel-shaded. Something about them's different. Their scales look more scaly or something, I don't know. Maybe because they've been dead a while, held as backstock for the market. You can actually see the fibers of each strand of rope. And I've heard of a square knot, but this is ridiculous. And how could we not make sure to take a look at this plethora of coral just under the surface? Vibrant reds, pinkish purples, yellows, greens, oranges, blues. Some are shaped like bushes, others look like clay pots or rocks, bigger or smaller. There are plates with ring patterns, some are spotted. The most rare are the multicolored, all living together and looking beautiful. It's unfortunate we don't get a chance to admire them more often. Maybe future up-close videos will be loose, random guided tours like this in the previous episode, and others may focus on a specific category. Like I said, the birds of Hyrule, predators and large game, seafood, horses, dogs, insects, monsters, NPCs, ruins and architecture, divine beasts. weaponry, out of bounds, or anything else. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Leave yours in the comments. And a massive thank you shout out to Majorin, the Majorinator, a fellow Zelda YouTuber who helped make all this possible. Go check out his channel, link in the description and the pinned comment. And now it's time to see who wins the members only wheel spin for today's video. Thank you, by the way, to new members. We've got Killer Wright, Link Mario, and David Thurston. Oh my god, Killer Wright wins the first spin ever included on. Congratulations. Thanks for being a Blue Rupee member, by the way. I hope you enjoy all those videos included in that package. If y'all want to get in on the next spin or have access to my backlog of private videos, be like these guys right here. Anyway, thank you so very much for watching all the way through to the end. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I did filming. Like it up, hype it up on your way out if you could, please. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be back as soon as I can with more content. So until then, stay cool and always keep punching out there. Aloha.